Let's go. Number 21.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Okay, banjo's in place. No, I'm gonna go up here. I'm just finding it for you.
Okay, you know I need all of it. Can't help it. Yeah. No, I hope I'm in tune.
Number 21. Talking to a stranger, naming the sorrow you see. Too many bad times, too many sad times, nobody knows but if somehow you can back up your sorrow and give them all to me. I know how to use them, give them all. Know your friend, walking in the shadow, they were a wandering star. No one beside you, no one to guide you, nobody knows where you are. But if somehow you can back up your sorrow,
How do you turn it on?
all to me.
How do you turn this on?
There's no songbook here, so I'll look up the songbook.
No matter
How do you turn the
what
mic on?
give them all.
It is on.
Oh, okay.
You have to get real close to it.
Okay.
Through this road, walking by the roadside, dreaming of satisfied mind. You'll make diary, no days highway, nobody knowing behind. If somehow you could back up your sorrows and give them all to me, you would lose them. I know you'd lose them. Give them all to me. You would lose them. I know you'd lose them. Give them all to me.
Nobody has their books in front of them. What do they expect to say? Everybody had a book.
Well, I could get a book from here.
Yeah, maybe
How about 56?
56.
No, we can do that with Mr. Bailey.
56. Let it be. Let it be in G, I think.
When I find myself
In times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be.
and in my hour of darkness,
She is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. 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 Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. When the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer. Let it be. Though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. 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 Words of wisdom. Let it be.
and when the night is cloudy,
There is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow. Let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. 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 Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. Ah, the good old days.
Be the change.
Mine is upside down.
We got some
I don't know
change
this
coming
one.
up here.
Be the change.
Yeah, that's
We gotta
it.
beat it.
Be the change.
First Sunday after Labor Day.
It's homecoming Sunday. If anyone is.
Be the change you believe in. Give support to each boy and girl. Be the change you believe in.
Stand up
For the children,
stand up for the people, stand up for each other. Lift up your voice, let it roll like thunder. Be the change you believe in. Where hatred sleeps,
where
truth
truth
never
never
slumbers.
slumbers.
Be the change you believe in. Stand up
For the children,
stand up for the people, stand up
for
for
each other.
Let your truth shine like a beacon. Be the change you believe in. Fill your life with love, hope, and reason. Be the change you believe in. Stand up for the children. Stand up for the people. Stand up for each other. Organize at home, in the workplace. Be the change you believe in. Without fear of being replaced. Be the change you believe in. Stand up for the children. Stand up for the people. Stand up for each other. Stay on fire. Be good to yourself. Be the change you believe in. Healthcare for all, no more politics or wealth. Be the change you believe in. Stand up for the children. Stand up for the people. Stand up for each other. When we all do better, we all do better. Be the change you believe in. Children of earth, standing together. Be the change you believe in. Stand up for the children. Stand up for the people. Stand up for each other. Take it out. $25. All right, Howard, you get up here and
Times they are changing.
you get up here and sing the lead. Well, maybe you can sing it there.
Oh, 70.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming, or you sink like a stone. For the time they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin. And there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will be later to win. For the time they are a-changing. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. The battle outside and it's raging will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the time they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new road if you can't lend a hand. For the time they are changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The soul now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. Your air is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last. For the time they are a-changing.
About that, Wayne.
Okay, Wayne, step up.
All right. Only because I
One love. I wonder if anybody knows that.
Hey, upside down page. I don't have a guitar strap. This shirt is mine, you can't have it. I've got others you could have, but not this one. Well, it depends. Every man's got a price. Hey, all right. Thank you, sir. Ha! Eat that microphone. Man, I try to put it down my throat is what I do. All right. Are we doing it slow or what?
However you want.
I don't know.
The leader.
You're the leader, the keyboard guy.
Let's
the
not
first
argue about it.
One love.
One love, one heart, and let's get together and feel alright. Hear the children crying.
One love.
Hear the children crying.
Give
Thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will be alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let them all pass all their dirty remarks.
The one love.
There is one question I really love to ask.
One heart.
Is there a place for the hopeless sinner who has hurt all mankind just to save his own beliefs? Believe it. One love. What about the one heart? And let's get together and feel as it was in the beginning. So shall it be in the end. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will be alright. Saying, let's get together more thing. Let's get together and fight this holy Armageddon.
One love,
For when the man come, here will be no new doom.
one song,
Have pity on those whose chances they grow thinner. There ain't no hiding place from the source of creation. You know it. One love. What about the one heart?
one heart.
Oh, what about the Lord? Together and be alright. I'm praying to the whole earth.
One love,
Oh, give
thanks
thanks,
and
praise
praise
to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright.
All right, Wayne. Thank you, Wayne.
All right, all right, all right.
161, what's that? 19. Probably Ripple.
Yeah, we're all over this. Well, we're gonna do 19 right now. The preacher requested it. Oh, didn't you? No, she said. What did you say? 1919. Oh, okay.
19, Ripple.
119 is Ripple.
If
My words did glow.
with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp, unstrung. Would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold with me as if it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken, or perhaps they're better left unsung. Well, I don't know. Don't really care. Let there be song to fill the air. Rippling still water. When there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow, reach out your hand. If your cup is empty, if your cup is full, may it be again, let it be known. There is a fountain that was not made by the hand of man. There is a road, no simple highway between the dawn and the dark of the night. If you should go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. will toss, the wind to blow, you choose to leave us follow. And if you fall, you fall all alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? And if I knew the way, I would take you home. La,
da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Time for one more. All right. Well, we got some old women here and some old men too. I am an old woman named after my mother. My old man is another, a child that's grown old. If dreams were lightning, thunder was desire, this old house would have burnt down long time ago. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to. Believing is a living, it's just a hard way to go. When I was a young girl, I had me a cowboy. Weren't much to look at, just a free rambling man. But that was a long time. No matter how I try, years just flow by like a broken down dam. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in There's flies in the kitchen, and I can hear their buzzing. And I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. How the hell can a person go to work in the morning and come home in the evening and have nothing to say? Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to. To believe in this living is just a hard way to go. To believe in this living is just a hard way to go. Welcome to Water Church. Our mission is to nurture spirituality, build our community, and work courageously for peace, justice, and mercy. Blessed be.
Is there? I'd like to invite Alice to come forward. Welcome, my friends, my relatives, welcome to this circle of life. The flame in the center, the core and the heart of us all, is a source of all beauty, peace, and joy and art, unfailing, eternal, lighting the way. It's the love of and compassion we share every day.
The East holds the promise that each day is new, that fresh new beginnings await me and you. Although I don't know what tomorrow may bring, I have courage and hope in my own song to sing.
The South kindles fire of passion and power to make the heart race and open the flower. It's a flame that can warm or burn out of control. Desire that moves me, makes me human and whole.
The South welcomes darkness, invites me to dream, and this is the West I'm talking about, and reminds me my fears may not be what they seem. I offer the tears of my grief to the earth, to the water, the seeds that wait for rebirth.
The North offers silence, shelter, and rest. It's the home of the stillness that comforts distress. I can go to this place because it lives within me. When I'm quiet and still, I can just let it be.
Everybody?
From the east and the south, from the west, north, and center, we welcome each other and all to enter our circle of joy, love, and of light. We walk together in beauty to make the world right.
I
Nancy, would you come forward? I invite you to turn to page 1 if you like. We are welcoming new members today. So Dave, Joan, Henry, if you can get away from all that. She's doing this one. Sorry. You can stand anywhere around here. But we're going to stand together. This is. Membership in Walker Community Church can be interpreted on many levels and many ways.
I didn't know I was doing this. As an opportunity to join with others who are committed to common efforts in community building.
As a way of affirming our commitment to humanity and our recognition of the sanctity of all life.
As an opportunity to work together with others for justice for all.
As an opportunity to celebrate with others the search for the way of life.
As a way of joining with others to celebrate and nurture spiritual life, transcendence, which defies the boundaries of science and calculation, to celebrate and affirm purpose beyond the seen and measured.
As a way to join with those who through history have come together to celebrate important events, as in the Exodus, when the people of Israel moved from slavery to freedom, when they crossed the Red Sea and found on the other side a desert wilderness before them, but no clear map to the promised land. And yet they discovered manna, physical and spiritual food, grace, the gift of life, the means of survival in the interim. Many people in Walker community have come through various paths in the Christian community, paths that have meant different things, and paths that have come to mean new things to them as they have wandered in this particular yet broad path with Walker. Everyone should be reading this part. Sorry. Together. Everybody. Together. With all their shalom, a Hebrew word, wholeness, peace, and wholeness of life, the way of life as we journey together in celebrating our community life. To become a member of Walker Community Church is to become a part of this group of people on the way, a part of the journey. I would like to give our new members who've been here for a while an opportunity to say what it means to you to be on this part of your journey and what it means to be bringing yourself officially into this community. And take your masks off when you share.
This is Joan. Hello. Oh. Okay.
You'll just use it. You'll use it as a prop. All right. I'm gonna keep it close to you.
I'm here. I'm here for the love. I'm here with the love, in the love, and I'm here for the feet on the ground in the connectedness, the mycelia of this journey embodied. While the body is still here, so am I. Amen.
I guess I would just say that this was brought up at the little new member class that we had, but I loved the line, a group of people on the way. And I feel like at this particular moment in my life, I feel very on the way of some kind of way, and Walker feels really supportive in that.
Well, I can't think of any. What? Oh, I got to hold it.
Closer.
I'm just grateful to be recognized after all these years. I mean, just this has been a whole family deal from a lot of members who are not with us anymore. I mean, we lost Al and even Cody. I mean, just having Nick not here and his family. It's just been my extended family for the last 20 years. And, you know, it's given me a chance to grow. And I still have a lot of rough edges to smooth out. I mean, every once in a while there'll just be a song that'll just completely take me apart. But, you know, it just shows how deep my emotions are and feelings. And it's not always easy for me to be able to express them. And somebody else has that ability. And, you know, that's kind of like what I seek. I mean, identity and growing and helpfulness, if at all possible. So thank you.
We hope for no less. We are happy you're here, happy that you are a part of us and woven into this. I have some questions for you. Now I have some questions. Are you willing to embark upon this journey with this community of people, Walker Community Church? If so, say, I am willing.
I am willing.
Will you pledge to give of your time, your money, and your prayers to the upkeep of this place and the furthering of the ministry of this church and participate in the various activities and fellowship of this community with a spirit of love and joy? If so, say, I am willing.
I am willing.
I'm willing.
Everybody, together. Come on, affirm the journey you have embarked upon. Let us go our dreams with each other, support each other through pain and sorrow, and seek to recognize each other's visions. Well, welcome them.
Pull it down a little. Pull it down. Point at your chin.
Okay.
Now walk closer.
Whew. Okay. Lao Tzu, number 29, the Stephen Mitchell translation. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It cannot be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The Master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle.
We'll have a shortened silence this morning, 2 minutes of silence. And offering. So, are there those? Mary has an announcement.
I'm going to do Apocalypse Cafe.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, when I preached about the apocalypse, dreaming and wondering, and made an offhand remark that we should have apocalypse cafes, people responded well to that and with a lot of interest. And it's going to be along the lines of the way we conducted the death cafes. Was anybody a part of the death cafes? So that might sound strange if you weren't. But it's really a really basic, safe place to bring up concerns and thoughts and wonderings about the existential state of our world. And this particular set of 4 meetings in October, beginning on the first Monday in October, are non-biblically based. Very intentionally, we want to hear where people are at. Anything else about that, Mary, that you can think of?
No, I have some flyers if you are interested in. You want to take a flyer either for yourself to remind you or to put up somewhere. But don't take one if you are not interested, because we don't want to waste the paper. So I'll just kind of pass these around. No. It's like a cafe. You just come if you want to, okay? No, there will be no Zoom. No Zoom for the Apocalypse Cafe. Other announcements? Okay, let's see. Next week we'll have Dick Danaher speaking. Is he here? He's speaking anyway. And Conrad is speaking on the 25th. There will be no grief group this week, and there will be no choir this Tuesday, is my understanding. Right, okay. That's all the announcements I have. Anybody else? Henry has some on Zoom.
All right, this is an announcement from Steve Sandberg. says East Phillips won a short-term victory on Tuesday at Pogo with Johnson and Ellison absent. CM Wansley and CM Chavez pulled the request for proposals for demolition of Roof Depot from the consent agenda and tabled it until next Pogo on September 19th, 1:30 p.m. Steve says, we will be down at City Hall in force. Thanks to everyone for your support.
What? Who? Oh.
Well, I know that Becky is now back in the cities, and they posted an address for her where she's living right now. And I wondered if anybody else wanted to join me in doing something. There's something I've been doing for my mom where I take photos and turn them into photo cards, and then I send her, a letter that way. And I wondered, people who know Becky and have pictures of themselves with Becky, if you want to maybe either send a photograph with a story attached about it, and just, yes.
That's a good idea. So see Bonita on that idea. Okay, we do have our charge conference today after the service, so I'm trying to keep us in check. Are there any other announcements? Okay, then I believe we're moving on to a pastoral prayer. Reverend Dan Johnson is here. I'll get that microphone. You can use that if you want.
Sure. Well, it is wonderful to be back with you today, both in worship and for our church conference that follows the meeting. But may we pause for a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer. O sacred Spirit of life and light and love, we come into your presence this day that both precedes us, embraces us in the moment, and succeeds us no matter where we go from here. O Spirit of life, we are grateful for the glory of creation. We have but to stare outside this time of year and begin to see the glimpses of color that remind us of the changes of season in our life. Not just from summer to autumn, but changes in this faith community too, with 3 new people committing their life of work and witness in and through this community of faith. We give you thanks, O God of life, for the life cycle of Walker Church and the faithful and the and careful celebration of the rich history of this congregation from its birth through its times of impact and what you hold before this church in the future as well. We give you thanks for the circles of life that are represented by a sister congregation here of New City, that in the 2 hours preceding this very moment, they chartered as our newest United Methodist congregation in the state of Minnesota and housed, incubated, supported, cared for, loved, embraced by this phenomenal family of faith here at Walker Community. O Spirit of light, we ask now that you could continue to illumine our path, the path of our daily lives that hold all kinds of steps forward and backwards and sideways as we deal with a myriad of issues in our respective lives, whether they're joys or sorrows, whether they are victories or struggles. May you illumine our path as a community of faith as we make significant decisions today based on our leadership needs, the future of our community of faith itself, and the use of this facility and in the years to come. So God of light, illumine our decisions in the meeting that follows this time together. And O God of love, we recognize that we gather today on 9/11, 21 years ago, a time of great tragedy and deep grief, that we continue to pray for healing and wholeness, not just of our country, but of our place within the broader world community. Because 9/11 was also a day of turning inward and sometimes even isolation, fear of the other, but Walker Community's work and witness through the years has always been one of an openness and embrace of the other, of broadening our perspective on word and witness and truth. And we pray that this journey from that 9/11, 21 years ago, would continue to enable us to grow more fully into the light and love and life, not only of you, but of also all of creation and our sisters and brothers in this family of faith. And so, O Spirit of life and light and love, rest lightly upon us, that we, with grace, we might deal with ourselves, with grace we might reach out to one another, but also hold us firmly enough, God, to be rooted in your steadfast care. These prayers we offer in the name of the one who created us, sustains us, and calls us forward as a faith community. Amen. Salam. Shalom.
Remember, can you hear me now? All right. When I was in seminary, there was a fictitious publication. It was called Eschatology Today. And the eschaton or eschatology is the study of the end times. And it had a special motto. It said, "All's well that ends." When I heard about the cafe, I just had to tell that story. It's been a long time. Our scripture passage this morning comes from the book of Acts, which was written by the author of Luke Acts. And it is the story of beginning of the church. Acts 2, starting with the 42nd verse. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers. Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. All who believed were together, and they had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to any who had need. Day by day, they spent much time together in the temple. They broke bread at home, and they ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all people. And day by day, the Lord added to their numbers who were being saved. So ends the reading of God's holy word. Now, this is quite a day on many levels. One, because it is 9/11, and that horrible day is well remembered, and all that cascaded from it. I sat in this wonderful sanctuary this morning, and I watched the newest United Methodist Church in Minnesota become chartered. It was amazing. People of all colors and genders coming together to celebrate 5 years of being part of this building, and building from a small fellowship into now a chartered United Methodist Church. What an amazing day. Now, they built that community, that fellowship, that group, just as people 100 some years ago built this congregation. It takes pioneers to start a church. Can you think of any ways in which communities get built these days? And I'm not talking about the development of a housing project. What are some of the ways? And I'm actually asking this as a real question. And when you say, give me an answer, I'll repeat it so those who are following us online will know. How do we build community today? People who have common interest and values. Say it. Breaking bread together. Yes, that's actually biblical. It goes back a long time and a long way. Yes, sir. So Jesse goes far enough back, and his grandfather goes far enough back that they were circuit riders. They were riding horses, and they went into communities and they established churches. My great-grandfather, who happened to be Presbyterian, had the only house with an extra room in it, and in 1856, when the Methodist circuit rider came by, he stayed at my great-grandfather's house. There's a great and rich history of building churches. And in your own way, this congregation has been part of birthing the newest church in the state of Minnesota. That's a lot. Barn raising. None of you probably grew up on a farm. Maybe some of you did, but not many. There, a hand went up in the back. That was Lou. Okay. People used to get together and help build a barn for neighbors. Recently, with all the flooding that happened in the Red River Valley and other places, people come from all over and they do sandbagging. They build community. They care for one another. They reach out to make a difference. All this goes back to the time just after the death of Jesus. He took that Passover meal and turned it into a time of breaking bread and sharing wine, which we call communion, a holy meal, the Eucharist, which means thanksgiving. Eucharist comes from the Greek word epharisto, thank you. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers. All who believed were together, and they held all things in common. Now, they've done some studies. They don't think that people gave everything up. They think they kept their fishing boats and some of those kinds of things that they needed to have for their living, but anything extra they had, they shared, and they distributed it among those who had need. People get fed in this community because of Walker Community United Methodist Church. The breaking of bread. They spent much time in the temple. This is our temple. They broke bread at home and they ate their food with glad and generous hearts. Generosity is probably one of the most important marks of being part of a community. I had somebody come up to me earlier today and said, "Now, what's meant by stewardship?" And I said, well, it's about taking care of things. And it's about being generous. Now, community is key. When we did our first gathering, we had 6 sessions that we went through over the course of a couple of months. In the first session, people said, what are the best things about this community? What are the things that need to change? What is your hope or dream for the future of the church? The word that came up over and over and over again was community. That was the most common word. 50 times people said community. A sense of belonging, a sense of caring. You also mentioned food quite a bit too, as I recall. And some has been, after this meal, there's something with yeah, it's got more carbohydrates than. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's an African proverb. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Together. That's what community is all about. I've got lots more I can say, and probably I'm not going to say it all. But I want to read to you of a very famous song. I won't even tell you the name of it. I'll let you figure that out. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let us rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of faith, and the dark past has taught us, a song full of hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, and yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our parents, I'm not going to say fathers, parents sighed. We have come over a way with tears that have been watered. We have come treading over our path through the blood of the slaughtered, out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last where the white gleam of the bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might hath led us into the light, keep us ever forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, from where we meet thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God and true to our native land. James Weldon Johnson. That is the African American national anthem. He wrote that in honor of Abraham Lincoln. the great liberator. God calls us to be a community that liberates, that works for justice and for peace. We do that every day in the life of this community. We pledge it when we say our mission statement, and it's lived out throughout the week. Well, I have a quick question here at the end for you, and I'm going to give all the answers if that's all right. What do you need to have a church? Isn't a great pipe organ a wonderful thing to have in a church? That's what I grew up with in my church in Duluth, First United Methodist Church, and I served at Hennepin where they had an incredible manual tracker organ. Yeah, that's nice. You need one of those for a church? Nah, you don't need one. How about stained glass windows? Really beautiful stained glass windows. One of the churches I served, a congregational church in Duluth, the UCC church, had Tiffany glass windows. Those people had deep pockets when they put those windows in, and they were incredible. I mean, just to look at the Tiffany glass and the color and the refraction and the incredible artistry, it's remarkable stuff. Do you need to have those to have a church? No. How about those uncomfortable pews? How about those? Do you need to have those to have a church? It helps keep the service short. Yeah, well, the problem is quite often that the clergy person is standing, so they don't have to face that. Do you need to have a cross at the front of the church to have a church? No. There's only one thing you need to have a church. It's a table. The table is what the church is all about. For the breaking of bread, for gathering the community, for sustaining and supporting one another. That's the church. The table. Amen.
Walker Singers.
We're going to sing in a circle because we discovered this morning when we were running through this. So I'm going to ask those people who are up behind me to come down. And I'm having the sopranos face away from you because there are 4 of them and only 2 of each of the other parts.
So, okay, let's see.
We sang this song one time at Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church, and I made a mistake conducting it and accidentally dropped the beat. Everybody in the choir went along with my mistake except the tenors who played the written part, sang the written part, and so for several measures we were beat apart. After the service, somebody came up to me and said, "All those tenors always mess you up, don't they?" Well, one of the tenors that day was Wayne Bailey. Here he is again. This is a song of the stuff. Can I hear some too? Can you? Okay. When I gave up drinking, this is one of the songs I used to replace it. That's a tenor of those found days. Hallelujah.
Okay, it is now time for us to get into a circle. And we'll take some time for joys and concerns and birthdays, and then we'll have some communion together. Joys and concerns. I'm going to come around, and if you have any, please let me know.
My daughter Leah survived gracefully and healingly her hernia surgery last week.
All right. Great.
I have a joy of seeing Wally back in the circle.
My joy is, well, most of you probably know I'm back on overnights, working overnights again. So my joy is that I'm awake because I had last night off, I have tonight off, and I could be awake and here for the day.
All right.
All right. I think, Steve, you should be able to go ahead and share your concern.
Oh, hello, everyone. I tested positive for COVID this morning, so I can't be with you, but I'm thinking of all of you, and been a lovely service. Thank you.
That it?
I'd like to ask for prayers for Giovanni. He's back in the shoe. That means he's in solitary for until November 1st. Oh, again.
Joy for this awesome circle, this church, and the day.
So the good news is I went to see Becky last Wednesday, and I plan to do that the next few Wednesdays, and I don't know for how long. So if you have things you want me to take there, and I will take people with me one at a time if you want to give me a buzz and see if you want to go with me.
All right, thank you.
My 14-and-a-half-year-old Labrador Retriever left us this week. And I've heard from a number of you, and I appreciate it so much. His name was Duncan, and he was a powerful spirit. And I'm grateful that he allowed us to care for him for so long, and he did so well.
Any birthdays this week? What? Conrad? Okay. All right, anybody else? Other birthdays?
Oh, there you go.
What?
Whoops.
Who? Bessie? Okay. All right. Bessie and Conrad.
Happy birthday to you, to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Bessie Conrad. Happy birthday to
All right, very good. Now we'll have our service of sharing the bread and juice, and I've asked, Carol and Emily and Joe, and I could use one more person to help distribute the elements when we get there.
So, at a Passover meal, Jesus with his disciples broke bread. Likewise, He gave thanks over the cup. The bread of heaven and the cup of salvation.
We have both gluten-free and wheat crackers, and your servers will hand you the piece with their gloved hand.
I need all the gluten I can get.
You and I are going to do the cups?
May you be strengthened for the continuing journey. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Amen. All right. For many years, beginning with the potluck dinners that that I first came to Walker Church at, every gathering was ended with this song. And I thought, and you know it, we should do it. Good old number one. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. It was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appeared. The hour I first believed, through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. It was grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us on. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known the days to sing God's praise. Then when we first begun, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was bound, but now I'm free. Shalom. Peace to you all.
Welcome those that are joining us online too. It's a real privilege to be able to be part of not only this day, but the entire process, to witness the growth, the development, and the careful discernment of this congregation over the last several months. Does anybody need, there's handouts here. I think it's been distributed electronically to the congregation previously, but there's copies of the final report from your discernment process. There's an agenda for today, and there's also a reminder of the resolutions that we'll be voting on. So if you need a copy of those, they're right up front. Hopefully those that are joining us online have received that previously, and you have that available for your use in reference today. Yeah, there's not a lot of the full report. So to familiarize everyone with what a church conference is, it's all voting members or all full members of the life of the church are entitled to a vote. So anybody can be present and participate. We welcome anybody in that capacity. But only actual full members of the church are allowed to vote. You just need to be present in real time. So those that are joining us online can vote today. Those that have been members for a century can vote today. For those that have been members for 1 hour can vote today. And that's a special opportunity for those that just joined this morning. Yes, yep. Oh, as Zoom, yeah, online or Zoom, anybody. And we have means to track that. It would be helpful if someone could, Henry has knowledge of those that are joining us between Zoom and online live streaming stuff. If someone could just circulate a piece of paper to record the attendance of those that are here in person, that would be helpful too. We just need the total complement of names participating. It's also my understanding that you are incorporated under Minnesota Statute 317A. There's a couple of different ways that local churches can be incorporated. That impacts certain votes, especially related to property. But since you're incorporated under 317A in the state of Minnesota, it's a simple majority vote for all three of the resolutions that we'll be addressing today. It's also in accord, just for record, our Book of Discipline, paragraph 2541, also is guides this process today. Okay. So just an overview of where you've been. Well, you've been having some conversations and discernment about who you are as a congregation, where you're headed, and how to be a sustainable faith community, including the use of this building for some time. It became more focused in this past winter, in the December-January timeframe, when you were between pastors and you began asking some very serious questions and wanting to enter into a clear discernment process about that. I want to thank Reverend David Wheeler, who has been contracted by you with some kind of in partnership with the Minnesota Conference to help guide you, especially in the last couple of months, very, very clearly in identifying three different important variables for your future together, a number of different choices under each of those, and by ranked choice, kind of straw poll, we have that has all contributed to the resolutions that we have before us today. So David, thank you, and all of you as leaders for your work in this effort. So we have three resolutions. We'll be taking each of these in turn. There'll be opportunity for any discussion. If they will be are presented on the floor, so they're open to amendment and or substitute if some people desire that. But we'll work through it just in terms of parliamentary procedure. The first one relates to how you see yourself continuing as a faith community. The resolution is to remain a chartered United Methodist Church during this time of transition. It still keeps the door open to shifting to a different status at some point in the future. A second is a resolution to request the appointment of an interim clergy sometime early this fall, recognizing you've been without an appointed spiritual leader for, well, functionally, easily a year now. And then finally, a resolution to gift the Walker United Methodist Church building to New City Church. And that isn't something that's going to happen overnight, but this would set the course and direction and implementation for that over a period of time, but likely, at least, I'll put my cards on the table. I would like to be able to do that with you during my tenure as a DS, because I've had history with this, and my tenure as a DS ends July 1 of 2023. So I would think sometime this would be implemented in the coming program year. So does anybody have any questions? We'll go back through each of these with specificity in turn, but are there any other agenda items? Oh, I should. We also need to install Henry as your board chair. So we'll be doing that, pending your decision about the other three things.
None of the resolutions address the debt, and we've had discussions about that, and there was some reference that the conference might become involved in picking up some part of that debt. I'd be very interested to hear your take on that.
The debt would only relate to resolution item number 3. So if I could just hold that, a response to that for any discussion when we get to resolution number 3, but be sure to raise that again. But yes, I did have a side meeting with Christine Smith too, to address some of her preferred timeline and how that debt would be addressed, repayment would be addressed in the shared partnership in doing that.
I was looking for some wet wipes. I'm thinking, the thing about wiping the microphone down between people. Do we have anything like that? Does anybody know if we have any wipes or anything?
There used to be some on the table by the front door.
If we can't find any, what we can do is, I'll use this one, and David can just walk this around and hold it. Hold it for people, so you're the only one touching it. Mm-hmm.
Just a second. We need the parting of the chairs here. Thank you.
I was thinking, from what I remember our last discussions, I thought there were going to be more options than just single resolutions to vote on. I thought, even though it was technically a straw poll, I thought that those options were still going to be available for us to vote on this time. So I'm a little disappointed to see that they're not here.
Henry or David, do you want to speak to that? I mean, you for the folks leading that process.
I would prefer Henry to speak to it, but he's not with us right now. Henry, did you happen to hear that? It was there was an concern that there were certain things that were not in the resolutions. I think it has to do with amendments or something. I don't know, but she was concerned that there was going to be a lot more before us, and it doesn't seem to be that way.
Okay, I think that this may have been, I think you might also see notes about this in session 6. If you're in attendance of that session, we discussed how at this meeting there is an amendment process by which if you would like to propose a different resolution, a substitute resolution, propose amendments to the resolutions, there is an opportunity for you to do that. But we developed these resolutions as a starting point for our discussion and our voting today. The resolutions are reflective of broader discussions we had this summer, And then additionally, the resolutions were discussed pretty thoroughly at the board meeting 2 weeks ago, which was open to members of the congregation to attend and offer comment on. But it certainly is, you can bring in other things if that feels pertinent.
I think. Yeah, we have one more question here. Well,
so it would make a big difference to me to be able to ask this without people being critical in my direction that I didn't attend every meeting and didn't get this question answered before today. So, resolution 1, my question today is what are the pros and cons of a fellowship versus a remaining church? And the votes are pretty close on that came in the straw poll. So I think that's a conversation we need to have.
Well, certainly entertain that in the discussion section. Right now, I'm just seeking any questions about the agenda itself, and then we'll take each of these resolutions in turn and answer questions and have discussion appropriately.
I'll get over to you, Jesse.
Could I just have a clarification of the process of like what's happening with the board? Are we having a board election? Are we having nominations? What is going on with that, I guess? How's that going to happen?
That's the 4th resolution. So I think somebody's got to make a motion that we consider the first resolution so we can get started on the process. Otherwise, we'll just keep going around and around in circles. And that's not going to be helpful. Jesse, you have something about the process?
I'm wondering if we vote today, do we get the results today? Yes? Okay. So I move we submit resolution 1 for consideration and voting.
Okay. Well, we'll move to resolution number 1. Whereas Walker United Methodist Church has been part of the Methodist Connection for more than 100 years, whereas this congregation has been on the cutting edge of social transformation as an important presence in the neighborhood, whereas this congregation has been a leader for LGBTQ plus rights for the Minnesota Conference, whereas Walker United Methodist Church members are a strong, non-traditional community with significant musical and artistic gifts, which we witnessed today, whereas a straw poll on August 11th gave 17 votes to remain a United Methodist Church and 13 votes to becoming a fellowship. Therefore, be it resolved that Walker United Methodist Church remain a chartered church in the Minnesota Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church during this time of transition. So that's before us. It really comes to us from committee, so it already comes with a second, and it's open for discussion. So we'll try to be sure to use the microphone so the people that are with us electronically can also hear and respond as well.
I just want to clarify that we are voting to remain a chartered church during the time of transition, and that will be discussed a lot during the next year, and it's still up for grabs whether we after the year in the long run whether we will be a fellowship or.
One question that emerged previously, what are the advantages? Remaining a chartered church during the time of transition provides some significant agency and autonomy for Walker Church in implementation of any further decisions that you make. If you become a fellowship right now, you really no longer have a board of trustees, for example, that can work with, say you would decide to gift the building to New City, it would be technically the Minnesota Conference that for a season would try to hold title to the building and make those decisions on your behalf. But if you remain a chartered United Methodist Church for at least the coming year, and then you could revisit this a year from now if you wanted, but allows you to have some control and agency and influence on the future direction of how the church building itself is transferred.
Oh, no, second.
the debt business, does the conference look more favorably on picking up part of the debt if we're a chartered church rather than a fellowship?
I think that would be immaterial on Walker's side. I think the important factor for the Minnesota Conference is to make sure that inheriting the building, for lack of a better term, by New City Church wouldn't be a detriment to their ministry. So we'd want to step in and partner. So say for instance, one thing that was talked about before is using part of your parsonage fund. We don't have to decide all these mechanics today. All we have to do is, in Resolution 3, decide to start on that path. You would authorize people to negotiate on your behalf. But say this is the way it happened, is you decided to use $100,000 out of your parsonage fund as part of the debt reduction, and then we'd be left with $150,000, for example, remaining. We wouldn't necessarily want to burden New City Church with that entire amount. So how much proportionally then does the broader connection step in to reduce that long-term mortgage? And I would say this if New City folks were here, we probably wouldn't reduce it entirely. It's good for new congregations to stretch a little too. I did a new church start, and the conference helped to some degree, but yes, we had to have a mortgage of $50,000 to $100,000 for New City, spread out over an appropriate period of time, would also be a good stretch goal for them. But that would, so whatever Walker becomes would be less an impact than the financial posture of New City at the time that they'd receive the gift.
So what I'm understanding from this, the broken down, simplified version of this resolution comes down to how much control do we want to have or maintain?
Yeah, especially over the coming year, then you can revisit it again, and when you don't have as much property that you have to make decisions over, then you might want to simplify your system, your structure. And both fellowships and chartered churches can have appointed clergy, for example, or assigned lay leadership.
Can you just explain what it would mean if we were a fellowship? I haven't heard this term other than in this discussion.
If you would become a United Methodist Fellowship, you are still a worshiping community. You still can have an assigned lay spiritual leader or an appointed clergy person, either active or retired, appointed to you. One difference is you have a lot more flexibility in terms of your organizational structure. You can simplify that dramatically. A fellowship generally does not own property, and so you don't have a lot of the legal, kind of tangible management of real or in-kind property that has to be cared for. You also don't apportionments, for example, become voluntary. There's no longer assigned apportionments for the shared ministries of the Minnesota Conference. So fellowships are exempt from that. Many still make a voluntary contribution to the work of the Minnesota Conference.
Executive question, has everybody who's a member signed this so far or not? Anybody not signed? I just want to make sure we get the list.
And if you, for those that have access to it, if you go back to some of the explanatory materials in session, I think it was session 2, where you addressed the four choices. It was remain a United Methodist Church, become a fellowship, discontinue, cease being a faith community, or disaffiliate, become an independent faith community separate from the United Methodist Church. Those four were all had short paragraph descriptions of each of those, and so that's available. Was available in writing to everybody as well.
If we became a fellowship today, would it be true that we would save a lot of financial obligation and also save a lot of our work, volunteer work that we'd have to do?
I don't think you'd. I don't think you'd save in terms of the financial side. I guess if I'm just being honest on the spot, if you ceased becoming a fellowship, or you ceased becoming a United Methodist Church, I suppose you technically could avoid any payment on the outstanding debt. But however, you'd also relinquish the assets the cash assets that you have in hand that would normally be used for the debt. So you could free yourself of some of the financial stuff, but you'd also no longer have any autonomy or agency over using the gifts that you currently have. So the other complication would be is if you became a fellowship today, again, related to the property, you'd no longer have a board of trustees to do the negotiating with New City Church and the Minnesota Conference on how the facility is transferred.
Dan, did I miss the conversation? Was there conversation over appointment of pastors? Like under the two scenarios, how do we acquire capable pastors?
Pretty much the same. Fellowships are also, we have about half of the 75 congregations on the Twin Cities District. I have about a half a dozen that are fellowships. Mostly those are first-generation immigrant faith communities, like we have a Vietnamese fellowship, a Karen fellowship, Hmong fellowship, that may, just because of their stage in the trajectory of their life cycle and the money that they have, they're probably always going to be a nested, smaller group of people and maybe continuing to remain a fellowship. But they still have clergy appointed.
So the pool is bigger for the former, the non-fellowship.
Certainly the pool of available clergy is more dependent on the money that you have to support the clergy, and whether it's quarter time, half time, whether there's benefits or not. That really is what expands the pool of clergy available, rather than whether you're a fellowship or a...
My other question is, I wonder where our board is on this issue. Would those individuals declare themselves if they were willing, their positions?
Yeah, I would say for myself that to echo Howard's point on this resolution, I really value the fact that it says during this time of transition. And that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing this resolution for myself, that right now we gain a lot of control by remaining a UMC church, and that certainly a year from now, perhaps shorter, perhaps longer, we should reconsider this point.
I would just echo exactly what Henry just said. I would favor us remaining a chartered church during this time of transition. What the future may bring, we may become a fellowship, but I think at this time we need to remain a chartered church. Thanks.
Yes, I think this is the logical step right now. And as you say, everything's just for 1 year. So,
including all the clergy appointments are for 1 year.
Yes. So this is what we need now, and next year we'll have the same conversation and see what we need then.
Henry, are we monitoring any questions or comments from our online community?
I'll bring it over in a minute.
The most powerful thing I've heard so far is that we'd have to relinquish our bank account, which means that if we wanted to hire a part-time pastor, we wouldn't have any money to do so.
I'm going to go first to the online people, and then I'll come to you.
There was just a question from Jan that I took a stab at answering online, but just for clarification, to Dan, did you say that we would elect a new board or establish a new board if we became a fellowship?
You could establish a new governance model as a fellowship, even. Most of our fellowships just have you already have a one board. Most of our fellowships have maybe a total of half a dozen people total that are just involved in just basic decision making.
Well, it just seems to me the logical thing to do to, take. Yeah. I kind of think that if everybody just voted, let's become a fellowship, it's kind of like washing our hands of the debt that we incurred, all of the history, all of the work that we've done, and just saying, okay, we're leaving. The conference needs to deal with this. New City needs to deal with this. We're out of here. That's kind of how it feels to me. So I'm hoping that, yeah.
Becoming a fellowship and voting for that now without a plan of how we're going to do that and what our structure to do that seems like it would be very irresponsible. And I think this is a thing we should come back to in a year.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that the board is subject to annual appointment like everybody else, and there will be we'll replace the two members and have reappoint the board at some point soon after this process.
Okay, we got two more resolutions to deal with, friends.
I move that we call a question.
Amendments in order.
Yeah, it's always in order. It has to be seconded.
I appreciate that people have said that we could revisit this in a year. I'd like to add, my amendment would be that after the thing where it says during this time of transition, that we will revisit the question of whether we remain a chartered church or a fellowship after a year.
Okay, that's in order. Is there a second? So that amendment is before us. Any discussion? Essentially, it's adding an additional phrase during this time of transition, and Walker Community Church will what? Revisit the question of whether we remain a chartered church or a fellowship at that point. If we can have somebody capture that, but I think you've got the intent. Any further discussion about that? Okay, there's just two points of discussion.
Yeah, it has to be in writing.
Yeah, I just want to respond to Benita's comment. I think that the idea of rediscussing this to determine that is implied in the motion.
Any other questions, comments on the amendment? Okay, we're going to vote first on the amendment, which is just essentially the addition that you're going to revisit this question a year from now. It's putting a timeline on this time of transition. Those in favor, raise your hand. And Henry, can you capture those online too, those votes? Okay. Those opposed, same sign. 2, 3. The amendment passes. So we have the motion before us as amended. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move forward with that. Those in favor of the amended resolution number 1, raise your hand. And those opposed, same sign. And resolution number 1 passes. Did we get the votes? Did we get the votes online there, Henry? I know that was kind of quick. Great. Give Henry a hand for keeping that coordinated. Resolution number 2, related to clergy leadership. Whereas Walker UMC historically has had gifted clergy leadership, but has been without clergy for nearly a year, whereas the One Board has provided thoughtful interim leadership during this period, but an appointed clergy is needed to interface with the conference in this transition. Whereas there is a need for a strong stewardship program, a planned giving initiative, and other financial issues around debt and building needs, where there is a growing need for excellent pastoral care in an aging congregation. Whereas in the coming months and perhaps years, there will be many other demanding issues to resolve. Whereas the first round of a straw poll on August 17th gave 12 votes for interim clergy, 7 votes for annually appointed clergy, and 6 votes for lay leadership, while the second round gave 17 votes for interim clergy and 7 votes for annually appointed clergy. Therefore, be it resolved that Walker UMC requests the appointment of an interim clergy starting early this fall. So that's before us by committee again. Does it need a second to initiate the discussion? So, yeah, and it comes with a second because a committee assembled this. So, so discussion, comments, questions.
No, wait.
Well, to wait for the mic so everybody can feel participatory online and hear well.
So where does it actually stipulate whether it be a quarter pastor or half or, you know?
That would be the negotiation really between myself and your One Board that functioning as your staff parish committee to secure a pastor that would fall within you know, a sustainable part of your budget.
Well, I'm not sure I understand Pastor Wheeler's. I understand he's retired, so I don't know if he's volunteering. The other is this is all contingent on a balanced, like a budget, referring to how much we can afford to pay and for what time and services.
Yeah, I would work with your One Board on finding a sustainable portion of your budget that would be allocated toward clergy. Regarding David Wheeler, he is not under your employ right now. He's a pulpit supply when he is with you on Sundays, and he's funded by really a stipend for his consulting services that was split between the Minnesota Conference and Walker Church for the services he provided in all of the discernment work. So your budget has been free of clergy for close to a year.
Is there a question over here?
It's actually a point of clarification because in the motion it states it one way, but the second bullet point in the resolution where it says, whereas One Board has provided thoughtful interim leadership during this period, but an appointed clergy is needed to interface with the conference in this transition. I think that this point in particular addresses that it is also back to that point of during this transition time. So whereas ordinarily an appointed clergy might be for an extended period of time.
Yep, and whether interim or longer term, they would be appointed by the Minnesota Cabinet. An interim clergy usually is appointed for a specific period of time and or a specific set of objectives to help the congregation achieve. So, for example, an interim clergy might be appointed for a period of a year to help you transition through the gifting of the building to New City and transitioning from a chartered church toward a fellowship over the coming year. And that'd be part of key objectives. That interim clergy then would have fulfilled their role. They may or may not be invited back to serve you in whatever capacity you might be as a community of faith a year from now, but it gives you another, it actually keeps you in the loop and in the driver's seat, so to speak, on deciding a year from now what kind of appointed spiritual leadership you need, rather than just assuming the cabinet will know your needs and either appoint somebody new or reappoint the same person.
On?
It is. It is.
It is now.
I'd like to point out that the idea of lay leadership, it didn't make it into the ranked choice voting, but there was a significant number of people at that meeting who voted for that. I'd also like to point out that we have not been without pastoral leadership. We've had the excellent leadership of Mary Parker and Mary Buckley and David Wheeler. We have not been without pastoral leadership, and we've had a very vibrant lay leadership model, probably very unique to Walker Church. And I just feel that this time is the business of Walker Church, and I'm hesitant to bring in, yet another outside person who may or may not be familiar with the mission of Walker Church, that might have their own agenda, that, I don't know if I can somehow just reconsider that idea of lay leadership or some unique model for Walker Church consisting of lay leadership with pastoral oversight, but with the understanding that it's the business of Walker Church to decide their future, our future.
Mm-hmm. Is that a speech against, or is that a speech for an amendment? Okay.
I don't know if it would be an amendment. I just feel that the idea of lay leadership had a significant number of votes, and it didn't make it into the top of the ranked choice voting, and I'd like to leave it as an option, perhaps. So how do we do that legally? I don't know.
I would just like to name the fact that at the end of last year, the SPRC asked for interim pastor, and the conference was not able to provide one, and we've managed to do something very successfully, but that a lot of the interfacing with the conference in terms of like technical things and doing the faithful path and all of that was a lot harder than it might have been with having a interim pastor or somebody to do that kind of like structural work. And I think that we managed with a lot of help from people, and I'd like to thank Tyler as well. Mm-hmm. And having somebody who kind of handles a lot of the day-to-day running of the interfacing between the church and the other things that are happening in this building, interfacing between our community and the conference would just be take a lot of things off a lot of people's plates. And I think that we will have our wonderful lay leadership and our wonderful like spiritual community happening, but having somebody who's appointed to handle a lot of the bureaucracy would make a lot of things easier, especially as we handle this transition and handling the building Passover.
Mm-hmm. Bessie put it so well, I don't need to say it.
I would point out that since the resolution reads appointment of an interim clergy, in some ways that addresses some of the concerns that you folks have had, because your one board gets to define the job description and the objectives for the interim clergy period. So if it needs to include a significant interaction with lay leadership, that becomes part of the objectives and job description that you communicate for that leader.
I would like to say that I think Mary Parker has done an excellent job of lay leader, but she has reiterated to many that she does not want to become permanent. And our ritual has been excellent, but I talked to people on the board, and they are doing their very best. They're working hard, but things are falling between the cracks because we don't have leadership for the bureaucracy.
I think what I'm doing is speaking for the resolution, and that is in two parts. One, I remember in the history that when Katie was appointed here, I was on the SBRC, which doesn't exist anymore, but anyway, we actually had quite a bit of freedom to talk to her, to get ideas about finding out whether we had a good fit. So I'm not frightened by the idea of the conference naming somebody and sending them to us, because we can always say, no, this person is wrong. we have an option of looking at the proposed preacher, interim or permanent, as a congregation to make a decision. The other part that I would like to speak to is, over the last several months, I've had lots of times when I wanted to try to talk to somebody in the church to get something done, and there was no place to find anyone. We've just had a terrible time because we've had so many of the tasks handled by volunteers who are doing more than they possibly can on a long-term sustained basis. I think we need to have somebody who's on the payroll, somebody who's here to take the job.
Should we put an amendment in here about how the appointed interim clergy should be sort of like, I don't know, supervised by the board, or it's, I don't see an amendment.
That's part of just your regular church structure there. So that appointed clergy would be organizationally responsible to me, in terms of functional work, responsible to your one board. Because your one board now serves as the equivalent of your former staff parish relations committee.
I believe I'm speaking for the amendment, and just a phrase that's been thrown around in the past, courtesy of Al. If we get an interim pastor, they would help Walker Church deal with the mothership.
Yeah. So when you say you were speaking for the amendment, do you mean speaking for the resolution? Because I don't think we have an amendment before us. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think the job description that I'm hearing is that it's more of a almost like a bureaucratic person as opposed to a pastoral person. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's almost like we need an office manager or something. You know, that's kind of what I'm hearing, that it's less of a pastoral role, less of a role in terms of even worship leadership, and more of an interface with the United Methodist Church. That's what I'm hearing.
That would not be my understanding. If you would ask for an appointed clergy, our clergy are appointed to lead in word, order, and sacrament in the United Methodist Church, so they would...
That's what I'm hearing people saying we need. I'm hearing people saying we need more of the office.
And order is part of it, ordering the life of the church, the connection with the mothership, so to speak. But then also, that's only 1/3 of that role. So there would also be a word or preaching, leading in worship, and then the sacramental nature of it, and or the priestly side of it. So that would also include pastoral care. That's been a gap that you've had to date as well. Is that a fair just interpretation of what the one board had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to say that we do need pastoral care too. We badly need somebody to be in charge of that.
I'm not voting. I'm a clergy person, so I'm a member of the annual conference, but I can comment. As a pastor, some churches need more order, bureaucratic stuff. Some need more pastoral care. Some need more worship leadership. But the most important part of being a pastor is being a kind of community spiritual glue. And Walker has not had that for a year. And through COVID, it was awfully hard for Katie to provide that, although she glued a lot together. And I think that we have to look at the capacity of our lay leadership, and they've been polling a lot. And I think having the support of a clergy person, especially in a year of transition, and apparently continued discernment would be important.
And by the way, Mary, retired clergy, if this is your charge conference relationship, you can vote at a church conference if you choose to. Oh, that's right, yeah. That's right, you're right. That's right. So you're right. Thank you. Well, you're floating in good arms here.
Like I did on the first one, I call the question.
That actually requires a vote to call the question. Though, anybody online, that was just technically a call for the question is not debatable, but. Nobody? Okay, those in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. Okay, it's before us then. Resolution number 2 with no further amendment, as printed, be it resolved that Walker United Methodist Church requests the appointment of an interim clergy starting early this fall. Those in favor, raise your hand. And those opposed, same sign. And were you able to record our Zoom and online folks too? Then we'll move on to the third. Thank you all. So that passes. We're half done. 2 of 4. Resolution number 3, gifting the building to New City Church. Whereas after 6 years of New City sharing the Walker UMC building, whereas this is the very day that New City is being chartered as a new United Methodist congregation, whereas New City promises that Walker community would always have a home in this building for worship and other Walker community needs, and there was at least some documentation for that lifted up in your prior meetings. Whereas New City is committed to Walker's mission to ensure the building is always an inclusive, safe, welcoming space for the neighborhood and surrounding community to use and enjoy. Whereas the current roster of organizations in the building will continue to have the support they need and maintain the building for each organization's needs. Therefore, be it resolved that Walker United Methodist Church gift their building to New City Church. We authorize our one board, serving as our board of trustees, to negotiate terms and timelines and execute transfer of ownership in collaboration with legal counsel. So that's before us from committee. It doesn't require a second, but we open it for discussion. Questions?
So I'd like to offer an amendment.
Sure.
I know that it's part of the resolution, but I'd like an amendment that states something regarding a division of paying off our debt that is owed. So is that appropriate to add that as an amendment?
So it would be including
payment for
of
a loan that is now currently on the building.
Would that be under the items of negotiating terms?
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
Let me just try this. We authorize our one board serving as our board of trustees to negotiate terms, timelines, and repayment of the outstanding loan on the building.
Yes.
And execute transfer of ownership in collaboration with the legal counsel. Does that work?
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Is there a second to that? Second.
Yep, so it's been amended with essentially adding to negotiate terms, comma, timelines, comma, repayment of existing loan, and execute transfer of ownership. So, we need to vote on that before we do. Yeah, we need to. So any, and that had I think that came with a second. I think I heard a second on that amendment. So the amendment's before us. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay. Those in favor, is it? Those in, Read it again. The whole thing would now read, be it resolved that Walker United Methodist Church gift their building to New City Church. We authorize our one board serving as our board of trustees to negotiate terms, timelines, repayment of our existing loan, and execute transfer of ownership in collaboration with legal counsel. Those in favor, raise your hand. Oh, question? No? Okay. Oh, those in favor of just the amendment? And those opposed? Same sign? Okay. We'll just pause to get a count with our virtual community. Okay, we're good there. So I assume that passes. I don't have the exact numbers from the online community. So the full motion as amended is before us for item 3. Any further discussion?
Yes. So I'm going to reread the first line of the first resolution. Whereas Walker UMC has been part of the Methodist Connection for more than 100 years. So now that we are on to Resolution 3 about the building, to me, the first two resolutions does allow us a lot of kind of giving us more time, so to speak, on what we're doing right now. This third choice does not, in my viewing. It is much more of a permanent change that is not kind of interim process of, we're going to kind of focus on this now, and it's not buying us time. It's very definitive and final. So personally, I want to understand a lot more of the finances of why we're trying to do this. And I don't feel personally ready to make such a permanent decision in light of our history and all of that. If the first line in the third resolution notes the new city with us for 6 years. So that's a long time. It's a tiny amount compared to the bigger picture of Walker community. And it very well could be the right choice, but I personally want to have more time to understand all the figures that will lead to that. And I would make a addendum to choose a later date for this decision on Resolution 3. Later, a little bit later. Give us more time to understand the facts and figures.
Like Jesse asked before, I'd like to hear from people on the board, their thinking about this.
I'm coming to you, Henry, but you're not being picked on.
Well, I would start out by just reiterating that this vote is to enter into the process of negotiation. So New City as a congregation, for example, they're going to have their own conversations about whether they are officially even interested in taking on the building. However, there's a lot of support from their leadership for that point. So I would say that this process will take a while, and certainly is far from conclusive in how we vote today. But it is heading in a direction. And for my own personal feelings about the building and its role in our community, just in my experience in the last year being involved with the building and doing maintenance on the building and so forth, this is something that KC brought up to me, is the ways that New City's stewardship of the building potentially creates a huge opportunity for furthering Walker's stated mission in ways that Walker as a congregation might not have the capacity for. And specifically, even more so, that partnering with New City, which is the proposal they've put forward, is it really reflects a partnership more than a full-on simple handoff and we abandon the building and we never consider it again. We'll still be here. So that's my thoughts.
I'll be back there in a second. There was a hand over here that will come to you.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think we're hearing from the board members now, and I'm not a board member. So let's do that first before we hear.
Is there another board member that wants to weigh in on this? Okay, Casey, I see Casey over here. Casey. She spoke up. She usually does.
So Henry spoke for me. Thank you very much. I've attended meetings of the renters with Henry, and I can vouch for the fact that the New City proposal carries on the mission that Walker Church chose. We built the building in order to provide service to the community, and that New City will follow. It's time for us to pass the baton, is my own opinion, and that they are the best possible resolution for carrying on our mission.
Okay, Henry and Casey have both spoken very eloquently, and I agree with what they're saying. Also, I since I've been on the one board, I've become aware of just how many hundreds of details there are involving this building, whether it's the cost of heating and electricity, whether it's the elevator, whether it's, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And so to have this burden lifted from Walker, I think is very, very good. Also, Henry spoke for Casey, so I'll speak for Howard, who has said in the past that maybe it's time that Walker concentrate on that we take care of each other instead of a building for a while.
I agree with what everyone says. I don't understand all of the facts and figures personally. I feel like I don't need to, because I know that we don't have the energy or the money to do justice to what could be done with this building in other hands. And I have a lot of faith in New City that they can do things that we will be proud to have as part of our legacy.
So I've wondered, New City was just chartered today. Is this the first LGBTQ plus openly so Methodist congregation?
I mean,
New City.
The only new church.
Well, openly LGBTQ. Saying here we are a new chartered church. Is this the first time it's happened?
The majority of our new church starts would be fully inclusive.
Right.
And the Minnesota Conference at large has cast initially an aspirational, now operational vision of where we're headed similarly.
I understand that. I'm just saying that I'm wondering have we made history here today with this? And if so, we should all be happy to be leaving it to New City.
I think this certainly is the first, it might be one of the first, well, it's not the first new church start in the Connection, I know, because we have some in Chicago that I'm aware of. It's certainly the first new church start in Minnesota that is not only launched as a reconciling church, but launched with an openly gay pastoral leader. Yes, that's true. First one in Minnesota Conference history. Yes. And you've had a significant part in giving them a place to incubate during this time of growth for them.
I'll go here and then I'll come to you.
So I'm a little conflicted on this particular piece because it doesn't necessarily address specific timeline, which I'd like to see a little more specificity. I can't say the word. And my only real concern about it is any negating factor it might have on the first two resolutions.
Anybody want to speak to that piece, that question that was just asked?
I would just throw out on the matter of timeline, Dan opened with the suggestion that you're hoping to kind of see through some of these conversations, especially as it pertains to the debt and the conference before you retire. So that would be July of next year.
Yeah, that's my side personal commitment to Christine, actually.
So I think that may be an indication of timeline for you. I can't really speak to the second part as well as maybe Dan could.
Say the second part of it.
Just a second here, let me use the mic. We gotta include them all.
Yep. The second part of the question was whether a decision to approve Resolution 3 would have any negating factors on either of the first two resolutions. And I want that as a point of clarity for the room.
No, because you can, so regarding Resolution 1, you can remain chartered United Methodist Church whether you own a building or not. And second, you can have clergy appointed to you whether you own a building or not. And we have examples of both of those cases right now in the Twin Cities District alone.
I'm a pack rat. I'm a real stuff person. I'm a clutter queen. And if it were up to me personally, I would probably just keep the church. But I really feel like, having recently sold our house and relocated, and how terrifying that was, just that total leap of faith, God has put me in such a better place. And I think that as a church, if we can just let go of the stuff of this church, I think we will be better off. And we don't know what that looks like. We'll probably inherit the Cathedral of St. Paul. Who knows? But that's not the point. The point is, it's just the leap of faith. And I think that that's something that, as a congregation, we have strong souls in this congregation. It's something we can do.
I'll go here and then I'll come to you.
I don't see the resolution as it's currently worded creating an absolute obligation on our part to transfer the property to New City. Because if they took an unreasonable position like, oh, we can't pay anything on the debt, oh, we're not doing that, or they took a position that, oh, well, maybe you can't be here for your functions, then we reach an impasse. This happens all the time in negotiations. People hit a wall, and that could happen. It's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen.
Yeah, and it's a chicken and egg thing. Somebody's got to take the first step to put the building on the table. New City could say, no, we don't want to receive it. But I don't think that's going to be the case either.
Is this on? I heard a lot of comments. I didn't hear anybody address the request to put this off a little bit. It sounds like people are very much in favor of offloading this building. So I heard that, but I didn't hear anybody give a strong rationale for why we can't decide a little bit later, where some people have voiced a non-interest in the dirty details, but that doesn't mean everybody is interested in that. And I've also haven't heard a lot of people in this room. I feel there's an energy right now of right answer, wrong answer, and that's my feeling, that I'm feeling, that there's kind of something, somebody will put something on the table, and then it's like the slammer comes down with everybody's like, nope, that's wrong, that's wrong. Now this is my viewing of it. I'm being a little, I feel this meeting is weighty, and the first two resolutions were to buy some time. Not only that, but those were some of the major, I think one of the biggest reasons like we got a very overwhelming consensus on yes for those votes, is because some people were like, that's totally what I want, and a large percentage was, that's going to buy us time, and I'm okay with that. I'll just go with that. And so this number 3 is formal. It sounds like it's going to put the ball in New City's court. And yes, maybe there's a lot of kinks to work out with them. Why can't we just continue to be in conversation with them? It looks like the writing's on the wall anyway, but still, that's how I feel strongly that this is a little too final for my taste, and my full sense is that's not going to matter. It's going to go forward today, but anyway, I just felt the need to say that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Jesse? Oh, Bessie's had her hand a long time. We'll go with Bessie first then.
The reason to do this now is because the building could be taken better care of now. New City could do better things than we're doing right now. The building could be physically better taken care of, and it could be used better as a resource for our community. And moving forward with that change as swiftly, it's going to lead to better things, and I'm excited about that. And it's not just about us not having a burden of looking after this building. It's about all of the wonderful things that this building can do when it's in the hands of somebody who has the capabilities to really let it flourish and be used to its maximum potential.
Very well said. It just seems to me that all the ducks are in a row. All the details have been worked out, and they're there and available right now.
This final resolution did have a 75% vote in favor of moving forward. This was the one that...
The straw poll process.
The straw poll was much more significant on this one issue compared to the other two. I'm sorry, you're moving hands back. Okay, here. Sorry.
So, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I think about the building, I also think about the organization of the office and the use of the building. I think that's what you were talking about a little bit, Bessie. And that's where I've seen that that we've had some problems, because even with the one board, we haven't been able to obtain a consistent office presence. And that's problematic for our assembly as well as for our outreach. So when I think about letting the building go to New City, I think about the possibility that we could have a vibrant office presence that would, enhance the use of the building, which Bessie mentioned, and as well as, I don't just see it as taking the load off us as far as the, the electrical stuff and the elevator and all that, but that is also a factor. My hesitation in all of this was, we want to be a spiritual community, that's obvious. We still are vibrant as a spiritual community, and we want to make sure we can do that. And I'm feeling like I want that to be our focus, because we have so much there to give and be. And so that's where I'm coming from right now, and saying this is a great opportunity to at least have a discussion of going forward of how the building will be maintained.
I just want to express my enthusiasm for all the discussion that's going around with looking at our future and the transition of things, and us as an older community as we move through the next stages of life. And all this is exciting, and I'm most excited by letting go of what we're so used to doing. So used to, my mind wants to, on some level, argue with Al about the boiler and about these tangible things that are going on. But the reality is, that we're moving into this next forest dweller, this next stage of life, and to let go of this burden. And the burden I call the building and all these tangible things of the boiler or of the building. There's so many details about these things, and even like the loan. Yeah, I look at, well, okay, we've got $140,000. We're making a couple percent, and we're paying like 6% on this mortgage. It's like pay down the mortgages, but let go of all these details. So basically, I'm just expressing enthusiasm about us as a community moving forward to what the next stage of our existence is, and I'm excited by this third decision that we're making as we move forward. Thank you.
I'll go back to Lou here. There you go, Lou.
Well, I dearly love the members on the board, but they have made some decisions without letting any of us know, or at least me, I don't know. I have two big issues in this building while we were owning it. One was that we have a well-fulfilled nursery where we could get more young people in here and things for little children, Bible stories and crap like that. I talked to the people that were from New Cities upstairs so that I would provide some of those things. And all of a sudden the nursery's gone. I never knew about that. I was shocked and appalled. The next thing is the kitchen. Many of you don't know that I was working with Walter way back when we had the old building here, and I wanted a dishwasher because I'm sick to death of washing dishes. And we had the fund, and it carried over, and we got our dishwasher. But now we can't use it. We can't use the kitchen. The kitchen has been rented out to somebody else. So it's very hard to put on a meal and keep it warm. I'm sorry if it was cold. But we're moving on. And if somebody else is running the building, doesn't matter. The two issues that I really had are over anyway. So we might as well move on.
Or put them on an agenda. Okay, we're winding down here, friends.
Yeah, I'd like to call to question.
Okay. Second? Those in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Questions, the resolutions before us. Number 3, as amended, remember we approved that, I'll read it one more time. Be it resolved that Walker UMC gift their building to New City Church. We authorize our one board serving as our board of trustees to negotiate terms, timelines, repayment of our existing loan, and execute transfer of ownership in collaboration with legal counsel. Now, those in favor, raise your hand. And opposed, same sign. Great. And do we have our online votes? This just required also a simple majority by the way that you're incorporated, and so this resolution number 3 passes. Have one more to go. Resolution to formally install Henry as your one board chair until next annual charge conference. Whereas Henry, is it Holtgertz? I guess I never asked you how to pronounce your last name formally. Has served as interim board chair since June 2022. So he's got a full, 3 months of tenure here. Thanks for your leadership. Be it resolved that Henry Holgertz be formally installed as board chair for the duration of the remaining board term until the next annual charge conference in January, I assume 2023. We'll just take that as a friendly amendment there.
Okay. So I have held my tongue throughout this earlier discussion in hopes of doing my little bit to speed up the process. The hour is getting late, as Bob Dylan said, and I wholeheartedly support the motion about Henry, and I hope you will all do so with your votes And if you want to say more, tell it to him afterwards.
Did I see Conrad going like this? Second? Okay, any more discussion? How about just a round of applause to approve this one? Okay. Thanks to all, yes? Anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn?
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Yeah, we did with applause. The applause for Henry was the vote. And we could even hear them clapping online. Thank you all. This is a significant step in your life journey and the journey of our Methodist movement in Minnesota. Help putting the chairs away. A church conference is adjourned.
Nice job.
I hope you all have a good week. It's good to see everybody.
My privilege, yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Casey.
I'm happy with the outcome. That last one probably did need a second, but never mind, because it wasn't in council committee. It just appeared on the agenda by magic. The board had no
Okay.
play in it, but never mind.
Yeah, and to have a new voice and somebody with those skills, that's part of what it's all about, raising up new leaders.
Tell me what you need for financial information. I think I sent you the last financial report. I'm trying to get them done.
Yeah, so the next step is really connecting with the one board on the definition of leadership needs and the parameters for the interim clergy. Because that's authorized to me early this fall, so I'll be back again to work with you on
It doesn't have a dollar sign in front of it. I'm trying not to pay attention.
If your group could come up with at least a proposed amount of what you think in the neighborhood.
My opinion is, in a whole, I mean, forget it.
Stephen,
We're pulling in like 6,000 a month. Then you have to pay 7,000 a month to pastor. That's all it's like.
Right, but could it be 4,000 a month, for example, if there's no benefits or anything else? Grand total of 4,000? No, we could get half time for that. If it's a depending on benefit needs. And benefits. Did Walker Bro send you I lose track of which churches passed, but I think
software, he never intended to be Walker, and he didn't feel that any office person or pastor was capable of keeping the software safe. So now, people are finding out that, hey, I'm around the room smoking dope in this, so we need to do something about it.
Well, there's so the party line is every church already has had their appropriate amount of apportionments calculated for them, so the hope is everybody would pay. That said, what my argument back to the
She is. Isn't that amazing? Howard looks confused, but he's watching, staying out of the way. This is Henry's sign that he wants to go home, so we should leave.
Hello.
Hello.
Is this Rhonda?
No, this is Diane.
Oh, hi, Diane.
Who is this?
This is Steve.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I thought I heard someone speaking to me, but I guess it was just background chatter. But how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm on my cell phone here and at home.
Yeah, me too. I just tested positive, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess I gotta stay out of circulation for a few days anyway. Probably, I guess I'm supposed to count this as day 1 and then take a test again on day 3 and then take the test again on day 5. And so we'll see how I do, but I don't feel too badly, but
That's our whole family except for Conrad and me had it.
Okay.
Had it. Her husband had it. Jennifer had it, and and my nephew had it. But the 2 of us never got it. Everyone was pretty careful about making sure I didn't get exposed to anything. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I held out this long, but I was a lot of places this past week. Not too many indoors, but there were some places, and people aren't wearing masks. I bring my mask along, but no one else was wearing it, and so I wouldn't put it on. But so I hope I didn't pass it along before I found out that I have it. I did a lot yesterday and felt pretty good. Just a little sore throat yesterday, but good energy and stuff. But then this morning I woke up pretty achy and thought, well, I better take a test. I felt bad enough, so I wasn't planning to go into church. But when I took the test, it was positive. I've taken a few tests and never gotten a positive until today. So
Yeah, your voice still sounds good though.
yeah, I think hopefully, I've had the 2 boosters and the original vaccine. So I was just called my doctor's office to see about getting the new one, but I guess I should wait now until I get negative and then take that, or it's not as important, I guess, since you'll have antibodies for a while after you if you fight off the thing. But anyway, yeah, it's so sad that we lost Al because of COVID.
I know, yeah. Yeah. Although he had cancer.
Right. And he had, I don't know that he should have gone back to work, and I don't know how much he did, but I remember one reply says, well, I'm back up on ladders. So I know he did go back to work to a certain extent, but anyway, yeah, he was definitely probably in a weakened immune situation after the cancer treatment. So yeah, and I know Barbara's really not coming because she's fighting cancer now too, and same thing, she doesn't want to expose herself. So
Yeah, I think about her every single day because I've got so much for pottery around my house. Every room I walk into, there's Barbara.
yeah, no, she's done some amazing pieces over the years, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, guys.
All right. Well, I'll let you go, and yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there today, but I sure enjoyed the service, and the meeting went well. I'm just all in favor of the congregation being as involved as possible. So that all these questions and stuff, I think are really the way to go, because people just have different takes on things, and I think going forward we're going to need to continue to be engaged to figure out. You always have to be engaged when you accept a new pastor. So whether it's interim or not, we'll have to meet the candidates and all of that. So
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah, well, I remember you were board president when I first got on the SPRC, and then we ended up having some a rocky road there with Seth, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's I'm glad we have some people on this one board that have had SPRC experience, because I think that's really, I remember when I got on, it might have been because of the new pastor, but we went to some trainings for it, and I think that's, if the one board's going to also be the SPRC, I think we should spend some time with some training to understand, because it's
I
really
think it's
crucial. Yeah,
a good idea. It's a terrific idea.
it's crucial to be both supportive of the congregation and supportive of the pastor and the staff and stuff. So it's kind of
Right.
a tricky deal sometimes, but it, that's I think what I got out of the training is that's your job, is to be the broker between the two.
Yeah.
And you can't have, we got a lot of people that shoot off their mouth and, speak before they think. And, you can't have people berating the office staff or whatever, we don't.
Right.
I don't know exactly what all went down during COVID in terms of why there were so many suddenly vacancies on our staff, but this gives us a chance to reboot in a big way. So
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
Yep. Same here.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. Good talking to you.
Be well
Yep.
soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
All right.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. How do I get out of here?